both of this, anything is same, anything will work. So whether you use read or use you ask you ask them to enter the three numbers during the run during the execution and the run time, so you can do both the things. So in the first if condition, we check whether in number one, what was, let's say I've entered the numbers 3, 7, and 9. So during the first condition, we check whether the first number, what are the first number that we have sent, whether the number 3 is greater than 7 and 9. So whether the first number, whatever the first number that was given as an input, is greater than the next two numbers we check. Okay, with these two if conditions. If this condition, so with these inputs, this condition is false. If this condition is true, then let's say if I give an input like 9, 3, and 7, in this scenario, the first number is the biggest of all the biggest of the three. So in this condition, it will echo number one is the greatest of all. So let's say this condition is false, then it will go to the next if condition. It will check. So again, they've used two conditions, but it is not required. We already know that, so we only want to get which is the greatest of all three numbers. We don't want to know which is the second greatest or the third greatest, right? So we already know that number one is not the greatest. So there is no use for us to check whether number two is greater than number one. So we could totally remove this condition, because during the first condition we already understood that number one is not the greatest of three. It's either number two or number three. So if you check between them, then we'll get the answer. There is no use for checking again whether number two is greater than number one, because we already know that number one is not the greatest. So I can delete that, and then I'll check whether the number two is greater than number three. If it is true, then number two will become the greatest. And if it is false, number three will become the greatest of the three numbers. So this is general logic. So if you want to update this again into more, if you want to more polish script, you can always add like something like if there was a special variable to check the total number of inputs given to a script.
$hash.
$hash. So I can check if $hash not equals to 3, because we want 3 inputs, right? So I can say then echo into 3 numbers. Then this would become an elif condition. And again, if you want, I can also add elif follow number one is equals to dollar number two, and also add dollar number one is equals to dollar number three. All the numbers are equal, then you can just add then echo the numbers are equal. So in this way, you can keep on updating your script based on what are the different errors you might encounter in future. So I'll copy this. Yeah. 3.sh. Take 3.sh. Let's say I'll enter 1, 2, and 3. 3 is the greatest of all. Let's say I want 4 inputs. Okay, enter 3 numbers only. So let's say I'll give the greatest as the first number. So I'm getting 4 is the greatest all. Say I add 4 numbers are equal. All the numbers are equal. So in this way, you can write this biggest of three numbers. Any doubts here on this script? Anyone still not able to understand this logic? So yesterday we saw that using a while loop, we can execute a set of statements or commands repeatedly until the condition.
Hello.
Yeah.
While I'm trying my code, I'm getting some missing information. Can you please try my code? I just adding in this chart.
At the end of the class, share your screen and show me the errors. So while I was explaining about this while loop, right? So I told you that we can execute a set of statements or commands repeatedly until whatever the set of condition that is set is true. So that's one use case for while loop in shell scripting. So there's one more use case for while loop. So by using while loop, we can also read our files. So let's say what are the text files? Let's say I'll use ls-l and I'll set it to text. Cat text, right? So we generally use the cat command and we pass on the file name and we can print all the information that is inside, whatever the content that we have inside the text file, we can print that using this.
We are unable to see screen.
You can see the screen now.
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
So we can use the cat command and check the contents of a file by using the cat command, right? Similarly, by using while loops, we can also read the files line by line. So if you want to ever check information that was inside our text file or any kind of text file or any kind of files, if you want to check all the information that was present in the file by using a looping condition, we can always make use of while syntax. So but for syntax, the syntax for reading a contents of a file line by line using while is syntax loop read to read a file line by line. So the same while, so we need to use read and you can give any variable here. So this variable can be anything. You can give any name here, just like we create a variables, right? So this number 1, number 2, number 3 is a variable. So you can create any variable here, does not matter. You can write any variable, do, and then echo dollar variable. We can write any syntax, any statements here, done, and then you need to give the file name. So which file you want to read line by line. So here it would be file name. So in this syntax, with this syntax, you can read a file, any file that is present in your server line by line. So to give a quick example, let's recreate the cat command. So we know that cat command is used to print the contents of the file, right? So we can create a cat command of our own by using this while read loop. So I'll use while. So first /bin /bash and then while read. So I can give any variable name, it does not matter, you can give anything. So I'm just giving as a line, but you can give anything. You can give a, you can give line, any variable name, it does not matter. You can, based on your ease of use, you can give any name here, any variable name, and then echo $line. So whatever the variable that you have used here, you need to use the same variable name. So that I'll explain how this works. So done. So I'll take a file name by using maybe during the execution time, or you can also use the read command and pass on the file name here. So I'll be taking the file name while executing the script only directly. So how this script works is, let's say I have a file with 2 lines. Let's say this is line X, so writing. So during the first iteration, goes into the while loop. So it reads the first line. That is, this line variable will have this, will be assigned with this value. During the first iteration, this is the value for line. So when you use this echo $line, this would print this is line X on your terminal. So during the second iteration, the value of line would become line equals to, we are writing shell scripts. So when I use this echo $line, so it's going to print this, what are the contents of this line variable. So this is how this while loop will work. So during each iteration, it will take each line of a file, whatever the file that you send. So during each iteration, the value of this variable will become the lines of that file. So if it has 10 lines in that file, so the while loop will go on for 10 iterations, and during each iteration, so during the first iteration, this variable will get assigned with the first line of the file. During the second iteration, this variable will get assigned with this second line. So on. So during the 10th iteration, this variable will get assigned with the 10th line of this file. So if I copy this.
Hi Aditya. How does that line variable will go to the next line?
That is what while loop is used for, right? So during each iteration, it will take this next line.
So we no need to add it with 1 or something like that.
No,
before we did, right? n-1 something like that.
You don't have to add anything.
Okay. So here, what is that done file name? Means what is that arrow indicates?
So we are whatever the file name that you want, we are going that file name to that while loop.
Okay.
So we are attaching that file name to the while loop here.
Okay. Okay, Aditya, thank you.
Readline.sh. So I'll be sending any file name. Let's say I'll pick3.sh. pick2.sh. You can see it's printing the total file. If I use cat pick2.sh, we'll have the same output. Set-x, starting from bin bash, set-x to the F5. So in this manner, so if you want to read a file line by line, it can perform lots of operations. So we will be using this same while read loop to perform different operations on our contents of the file. So I will be explaining the scripts next. But this is just a basic example on how we could create our own cat command by using this while read line. So you can create your own cat command by using this while read line loop. So just by writing these 4 lines, you have created your own cat command. So it takes every line that you have entered that is present in the file, and it will print each line by using the echo command. Any doubts here?
Aditya, can you execute it once again?
Read files. Let's say example.sh is alright. Prints. So if I use cat example.sh, you can see. So this is a file name that I'm passing. So when I pass this file name, So this while loop will pick up that file name. So you can also use that read command and use the variable here. That also you can use, or you can directly use the $1 and pick up whatever the value that you are passing directly to the while loop by using the $1.
Okay.
Any other doubts, anyone? And for an example, if you directly know a fixed file, so let's say read. So we are using this, right? So if it is a variable, we have to use the dollar symbol. Let's say if you have a fixed file you want to read, then I can just use big2.sh here. So I'll be directly passing the file name. So you don't have to use any dollar symbol because this is not a variable. I'm directly passing the file name, so I don't have to use any dollar symbol. So if I use a variable and assign this value, then I had to use the dollar symbol. So now if I save here, if I just execute this script, it will directly print that because I've already passed on the file name inside the script only. So if I want to pass the file name while executing the script, then I can always use $1.
There is no need to read a file, read a content of the file, like we used to read in the initial beginning of the statement, right?
If you want, you can also do that. Either you use $1 by passing this file name during the script during the execution time, or you can also use a read command and then read the file name and then assign it to a variable and then use the variable name there. You can also do like echo the file name, read name, then you can use your $name. So you can also use whatever is convenient for you, can use that.
Aditya, will this also work with your regular files, normal files, not the scripts?
Yeah, any file. You just have to pass on the file name. That's it. Any file that is present in your server. So I have this F1. I have this text, right? Message. Any file does not matter. You just have to be a file. That's it.
Okay, thanks.
Give you an example on how we can make use of this while loop. Let's say for an example, the contents of the file.
Aditya, will this work? Now, for example, I write this particular shell script and I give a file which needs sudo access. Will it still display what is written?
Message read line. I'll pass on /etc/profile. Those permission can add. You need to have the permission. Yeah. Even for
so here, if we add the sudo command, it'll work.
It'll work. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Read loop to check the number of characters in each line of the file. So how can we check the number of characters in total number of characters of a file?
WC -c.
The WC.
-c, right? So let's use ls-l. So if I want to check for a particular line, so I can always use let's say I want to check for 2p. N and then 2P. So I'll be getting the second line. I can always use
-N.
WC hyphen C. Sorry. This would give me the characters on that particular line. So here I had to use this set command because there were so many lines, and to single out a single line I had to use the set command. But in our case, this while loop does the job for us, because the while loop will only take each line by the file, each line by line, so that we don't have to take that. So you don't have to use the set loop or anything. We can directly take that line and check the total number of characters. To show you how this works, so bin bash file read line do, so echo $line. So this will print that line, right? So I can just pass on to pipe it to WC-C. $1. So just this line. So if I copy this, I got a search. Wrote a search, and let's say I pass on the text file. You can see a cat and then text. So the first line has 3, 5, 6, 7, 8, and maybe an extra space. That's why it's showing us 9 characters. So if I use cat so let's say if I use cat text and then pass it to sed-n 1p, that means it will pass on the first line, right? So if I pass it to WC-C, you can see 9. Let's say if I pass on to the third line, you can see 56. P giving us 56, but it's giving us 54. Maybe some extra spaces it's leaving off, and it's not showing those spaces. Let's say 58. Maybe only for the third line there's some issue. Only maybe there's some issue with the fourth line, maybe with some extra spaces it's taking. That's why it's not giving me the exact output for the fourth line. But all the other lines it's giving me the exact output. So I'm just using this echo $line. So this would print that particular line, right? So I'm just piping it to WC-C, which will give me the word count of that particular line. So this same command, and I don't have to use the set command, because with the while loop it already reads the file line by line, right? So I'm just echoing that each line and then piping it to word count. Any doubts here?
The same kind of.
Alicia, can you once again repeat? I didn't get it.
Who is this? Who is this?
Hello.
Who is this?
Hello. Ajit, sir, it's me, Gagan. Hello. Hello.
Yeah. It's not a problem. You asked me 10 times. I can explain you 10 times. But always remember how to speak when you're on a call. It's not about this calls. Even when you're meeting, when you join a company, know how to ask questions.
Sorry, what was the thing mistake I made?
This is just a while, so you already know that how to read it. So it's not about like it's the accent, and so it should be like you need to ask it properly in a proper manner. So you are a software engineer, you'll be a software engineer with a 6 or 7 years experience. When you're talking to a manager or any person, so you need to have some proper etiquettes.
Okay, okay. Like oh, sorry, sir. I was not in that line. This
Yeah,
one.
it's not a issue. So I, because here it can okay, but when you're in a company, so some managers there will be some psychotic people who with a single word I don't know they'll feel like you are disrespecting them. So if you're
Sorry, sir.
passing
My
that's
background is
it.
like a civil background, so
I am
mine don't
I
don't
am
be.
also a civil engineer. I passed out in 2014. I did structural engineer. Then I joined as a DevOps engineer. So I am also a civil engineer.
Yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah. So this is a while loop. So you already know how to read a file line by line. You can pass on any file here, and the while loop reads those lines line by line, right? So let's say I will have only one file, one line file. Echo, hello, how are you? Redirect it to test. So if I use cat and then test, so this is a single line of a file. So what I will do is sh read line, then I'll pass this test. So you can see that this while read loop can print all the lines of your file, and it reads that by line. So if you have 10 lines during each iterations of the while loop, so it will take, let's say, I have with the first line I have hi, during the second line I have how, during the third line how was, fourth line you have you. So during the if I use while read line and then echo a line and then run. So if you pass on this any file name here, so how this loop works is, so whenever you're passing any input here, so this is the file if you have passed this as an input. So during the first iteration, the variable line, so this could be any variable. I'm just giving an example as a line, so I can change it to a. The script will still work. So during the first iteration, so when the script goes into the while loop, so during the first iteration, the value of variable a will become high. So when I'm echoing that echo $a, right? So when I'm echoing this $a, so that the output will be getting on the screen would be during the second iteration. So the value of this variable will become how, because the second line of our file is how, right? So the value of the variable will be how. So when I'm echo, sorry, this is so during each iteration the name of the variable will remain the same. It's just that with each iteration the value of the variable will change based on the what is the content of your file. So during the second iteration, or the second line of our file is how, so that line will be assigned to the variable a. So when I use echo $a, so the output will be, that was the value that was assigned to that particular variable. So this is how this while read loop works. So when I'm combining this echo, so this same echo with wc-c, so now the value of a is echo how. So if I pass on to wc-c, so what is the value that you will be getting as an output?
3.
Right, this is the same syntax that's working. So if you use echo hello, and if you pass on this value to wc-c, you'll be getting 6. So even extra something, it's taking this value as 7. Let's say maybe this not some exact value, it's printing as some extra value. This 7 it's showing it should be 6, but it's printing as 7. So this is the same thing that I'm using inside the script. So once we go into this while loop, so any file that we send, so that file while loop will read this file line by line. So during the first iteration, give me a second. So during the first iteration, so this echo will pick up the first line. So what are the content? Let's say you have multiple words. Echo, how are you? So let's say this is the first line you have. So it will just pass on this whatever the value of whatever your first line is. It will pass on to WC-C, and it will get you the characters of that line. So if I go to this text, so this is the first line, right? So if I copy this first line and pass it to echo command, echo insert WC-C. So you can see I'm getting the 9 value. If I see during the second iteration, the echo command will pick up this total line. So it will pass on. So it will pass on that to. It will pass on to WC-C. So you'll be getting 52. So if I use the same command sh sh, and if I pass on this text file, you can see 51. So maybe I've added an extra space. So this one extra word, so it keeps on happening. So if you see now, you can see 51. So in the background, this is what is happening. So during each iteration, the while loop will pass on this value. So echo command will pick up the first line, echo command will pick up the second line in the second iteration. During the fourth iteration, it will pick up the fourth line, and it is passing that to the, it is pipe. So whatever the data that was there, it's passing to the WC-C by using the pipe command. So that's how we are getting this, the total number of characters on each line by using that script. So whatever yeah.
Aditya, if you read a variable before the while loop, it will take that variable. But if we read a variable inside a while loop, it takes a variable as a line. Is that correct?
Can you repeat it again, your question?
If you read a variable before the while loop, it will take that variable as something. But if we read a variable inside the while loop, it takes that variable as a line.
So this is a while read loop. So for a while read loop, whatever the variable name that you are given, right? So even inside script, let's say if I create a variable a equals to $1, b equals to $2. So these are separate variables. So only the variable that you mentioned here alongside this while read line, so only that variable will be assigned with the lines of your file. Any other variable will have the same syntax that we have been using since the beginning of our shell script. Only that variable that you mentioned in the side of your while read, only that variable will be assigned with the each contents of your file.
Okay, thank you.
Is it clear now, Gagan?
Yes, sir. Just again, one second. Thank you.
You don't have to call me sir. Even in any company, don't ever. This is for everyone. Don't ever give tell anyone as sir. We know that in civil engineering we call everyone as sir. So in software, once you join as a software engineer, don't ever address anyone as sir. Just call them by their name. Even if he is a manager, just address them by that name.
Okay, Aditya. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It like a 0 is being passed at the end of the file, that where the while loop is getting terminated. Is it like that?
You are not audible. Can you speak a little louder?
I'm asking that is it like a 0 is being passed at the end of the file? That is where the while loop is. Is it like that?
Is it just me or this is not fully audible?
His voice is a little low.
They are not at that.
Hello?
Yeah, your voice is not audible. We are not able to hear you.
Okay, I'll ask later.
Sure. So next, try to write a script. So it will take a file, any file on your server. So the output should be, in the first line we have 15 characters. In the second line we'll have, so whatever the number of characters in your file, right? So it should print me the total number. So we can use this WC-C to get the total number of characters, right? So I want an output like, so in the first line there should be 15, it is 15 characters. In the second line there are 25 characters, or whatever the number of characters based on the input that you are given. So how many characters are present on each line? So I want an output like this. So to get number of characters in each line with line numbers. So try to do that. So you already know how to get the line numbers. You even don't have to even use the line numbers as well, wc-l. You can just use you can just keep on incrementing the values 1 to 3, and then just use the colon and then print the wc-c. You already know how to get the value of total number of characters. So try to write a script. So let's say if the script has 2 lines, so it has to print the line number, the first, okay, during the first line it has this many characters. In the second line the file has this many characters. So during the 10th line the file has this many characters. So try to write the script. If not, I will explain it how we can write. Try to write it.
Aditya, so when you said about incrementing, it's basically using something like n plus plus, is it?
Yeah,
For the line number. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Try to write it and paste it in the chat box, or you can also paste it in the WhatsApp group.
Aditya, can you check my script about this big number I shared in chat box?
Yeah.
Screenshot I shared. Hello, Aditya.
Yeah, I'll check it now.
Yeah, okay. Last screenshot I added. The next screenshot you have my code also. Why I'm getting that line 7 is missing something?
Can you paste this as an text format in chat box? Yeah.
Okay. Pasted.
Aditya, can you please check the code that I've sent? Not this above one. Aditya, can you please check the code that I have sent?
Yeah, I'll check. Wait.
Okay, sure.
Okay, got it. So these brackets we need to do it. Okay.
Oh, no, no, this won't work because you're just echoing and then checking the word count. It will just give you the word count. It will not give you the line numbers. You are not printing the line numbers anywhere. So you need to take the word count in a separate variable, then print it again. Actually, how one this works. This also won't work. Let me explain how this works. So initially, either you can this either if you're initializing in this manner also, that's also correct. There's no issue here. If you're using n equal to 0 and if you're starting with the incrementing in the initial in during the beginning of your while, that this is also correct, but you can also use in this manner. So during the first iteration, what the script is doing is, let's say this is the line X, right? So WC equals to echo dollar line. So this will print that line, and he's passing that whatever the output here the to get the word count by using the WC-C. So whatever the number he is getting, right? So he's storing into a variable. Any variable name you can use is just use WC, but you can use any variable name here. It can be anything. And during the next echo command, so the $I will be your line number, and then colon $WC. So the value of WC, he already stored the count of characters in the previous command. So in each iteration, during the first command, he is finding out the total number of characters and he is storing in a variable. And during the next command, he is printing that line number by using the I. So this is an incrementing variable that he used, and colon and $WC. So we need to always, so if you want to perform in this kind of operation, you need to store that into a particular variable, because if you use echo $I $WC, and if you pipe it to again WC-C, you'll be not getting this in this. So if you will be not getting the output in this manner, you'll be getting the output as 4 5, because it will take this as an input, and total number of characters for this input is 2 3 4 5. So you'll be getting the output as 5. Any doubts here on the script? So let me copy this and show you how it works.
Hi Aditya, I just have a question. So what I did was I used the and command to try and execute both separately. So that won't work, is it? And if
I have to check once if it works. This is a major manner. I have to check once if that can also work. But if you are using two echo commands, most probably it will print in two separate lines. It will not be printing in the same line. So let's say if I use echo hello, and if I use and echo, or so they'll be printing in the next line. So that's what you use, right?
Yes, Aditya. Yeah, I have used and. So it will come one, and then below that, the
Yeah,
next, the number of lines will come. Okay.
number of characters. Yeah, it will print.
So is there no way to print it in the same line using this? We have to follow what Pavan had written, is it?
You can do that by using some dollar symbol. Here we can use something like this. I like to know the syntax, but you can also use echo dollar line and pass it to WC -C. This can also work. So this first it will take this value, whatever the value, and then it will it will send it to this echo command. Maybe you need to use echo -he. I don't know exact syntax, but this can also work. So you need to fine tune this exact syntax or something like this. Something like this can also be done.
Sure, Aditya. Thank you.
So line car.sh. Let's have a pass on the text. Can see one and so. So to come back to your error, Vandana. So if I don't use this WC, right? So let's say I delete this line.
Yeah, Aditya, I got it. The whole line will print and then it will count, it seems like.
We're getting this 4 4 4 4 5
Yeah.
So if you see
Okay.
here, this is the output, right? So 1 2 3 4. So it's printing as 4, and in here it's printing.
Yeah, Aditya. Okay, got it. Thank you.
So I think you overcomplicated it. There is there's not this much to think about. It's just a simple thing. I don't know what logic you have thought of, but yeah. Good that at least you're trying. So that's what matters. So you can write your programs. There can be always some errors and what you're thinking, but trying is the most important thing rather than just looking at the what someone has wrote or what I'm writing and just looking at them. You'll never learn until you try by yourself. Yeah, yes. Bhavya, yours also same mistake. This is correct. What this will do is it will first print the total number of characters first in the first line. So let's say I have this output, right, input, right. So what that script will do is, so first it will print the total number of characters. In the second line, it will print the line number, and going to the third line, it will print the total number of characters in this line, let's say 25. And then the fourth line, it will print the line number. So if you go by this script, so just okay, small errors you can always learn. First, if you see here, use the echo command, right? So first it will print the total number of characters, and then in the next line it will print the line number.
Oh, okay, Aditya, we have to merge it, right? In the echo command.
Yeah, you have to merge it.
Good. I will try it. Thank you.
Anyone else? Any doubts with this script? I have this information, right? So how can I get this third column if I want to get only the third age of this table?
Awk command.
Cut command.
Print
Cut command.
$.
F3.
You can use either awk or cut, both works because there is only one space, so you can either use any of this awk or cut, both will work. So what is the delimiter for awk here?
Space.
Space.
Space. And F3.
F3.
I can cut the age, right? So let's say I want to single out, maybe I want to get the age of GHI. So what more should I do? So I'm getting the age number.
Use awk and combine both row and column. Can do that.
So it's all. So I already have this column, right? So let's say GHI is in the 4th row. So if I want to get only the 4th row, what command that I can use?
Awk.
NR equals to
NR
equals to
double equals 4.
Yeah. One is awk. Any other command to get a particular line to print a particular line?
Set command.
And you set -n 4p, so it will print the age number. So now I want to write a script write a script to get all the names of employees with age greater than 30. So we have this tabular column. So the script should take all the whatever the information that is there in the tabular column, and it should give us all the names that has, let's say if you are sending this as an input, so the output should be all the names whose age is more than 30. So here ABC, GHI and MNO. So this should be our output. So these are all the 3 persons whose age is about 30 years old. So how can we do this using your while loop? So I'll use the same syntax, while read loop.
Sort command.
So here, so this is a sort. So I will explain how this works. So that so some little complicated, but yeah, same kind of script. So I'll explain this one, and I will give the next one is for you to try. So now if I want to get age, so if I want to single out the age of a particular, so you already know that with while read line, so we'll be reading each line, right? So when I'm reading this line, so if I want to get the 3rd column, I can directly go for age equals to echo $line. So this will print this particular line, right? This particular line. So if I just pipe it to cut -d with the delimiter as space -f3. I can also use this, or I can also use awk -f with the field separator and then print $NF or $3. Both are one and the same. So what this command will do is, so during each iteration, the value of age will be assigned to this variable age. So you can give any variable here. So anyone has any doubts with this command?
Yeah, Aditya. If the age column is at second, how means the input will change, right? Depends on the
Depends on
client.
Depends on the client, but always the age value is in 3rd row, right? 3rd column. So
Okay.
let's say set
If the input varies, means
based on the input you have to write. So whichever column you have, that particular column, or if you want to check, you can each column first check the first line, and the line where there is age, you write a comma, and then for that particular column you write that script.
okay,
So
it will get matched with ANSI
Yeah.
code, right? Okay. Yeah.
So you can check the strings, right? Using the if condition, you can always check the strings by using equals to equals to.
Yeah, Aditya.
So that would be too much complicated. So just a simple example I'm giving here. So we know that the age is in the third row. So let's say if I'm getting the second line. So when I use this echo dollar line, so this would be the output. Table. So this would be output. So when I use this -d -f3, so I'll be getting the age, right? So during each iteration, I'm just assigning whatever the value of age to this variable age. So any dots with this command? Just check if $age is greater than 30. So how can I get the name of the name from this table?
Cut-d. Name is equals to cut-d delimiter -f1.
Spaces -f1 and then echo $name. I can directly also echo that, but this one also you can do. So fi and then done. I'll pass on the. So during the first line of this while read loop, so it is reading whatever the line. So let's say it will pick up this line. So it will read that particular line and it will take the age of that particular line. So value of age of that particular line, and it will assign it to this variable age. So during the second iteration, during the second line of that command statements, you can say there is an if condition where it will check if the age, whatever the age we are singling, right? So it will check whatever the age, if it is greater than 30, because that's the condition, right? If it is greater than 40, I would have been rating 40 here. And then if this condition is true, I'm just echoing the name here, echo $name and fi. Any doubts on the script?
Hi Aditya. So while assigning the variables, so we have used the single quote there, right? So as far I remember, we were using that when we were using any kind of mathematical expressions. So why is it used here? If you use double quotes, is it wrong?
No, even if you're use double quotes, right? So this will be just as a string. It will store it as a string.
Okay.
So if you want to get a value, whatever the value, so when you're doing that mathematical expression, so if you want to compute that value and store that whatever the value that you are getting into a variable, we use that, right? Similarly,
yeah.
So if you want to run a command and whatever the output of that command, if you want to assign it to a variable, we have to use the same codes.
Okay, so anytime you guys any command is being executed or some operation is coming and the result has to be stored in a variable, that is when we use this.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah. So let's say if I use this age.sh and then table. So can you tell me anyone why I'm getting this error? Age integer expression expected. So I've written all the syntax is right. Everything is right. So I'm getting the exact values as well, outputs as well, but I'm still getting an error here. Can anyone guess why we are getting that error?
When we should not use -GTR.
It's a numbers, right? These are all numbers. So I'm using -GTS 30. So if I use this greater than or equal to, then these are all not numbers. These are all not strings, right? Any guesses? Yes, definitely the error is in this line, but why are we getting that error?
You have to use symbols.
Which symbol. So if you use the symbols, then we'll be not able to check the numbers, right? Integers.
Else statement.
Else statement is not required. I don't want to use any else statement. Just if is fine. So the error is arising from this if loop. So in this condition, so during any one iteration, it's picking up some data and it's giving me this data error age integer expression expected. So look at this data and understand why that error might appear. So we are passing on this
Whether
total
age is
First line we have
yeah. So
age,
when this
right?
so when this while this while read loop is working, so for all these other lines, so in the last column we have a integer, so it won't be any error. But when we pass on this first line, right? So it does not, the while loop does not know what you're passing. It will only pick up all the lines and it will read line by line. So when I'm using this age, during the first iteration, the value of age would be this. And when I'm sending this value to this if condition and I'm checking with -gt, it will always throw up an error that integer expression expected, because you can see here, so age, this is the input that I'm getting in that if condition. So if I use, let's say, vi age.sh, if I use set -x here, so here during the first iteration, the if condition is checking, so the value of age variable will be capital AGE, and it is checking whether AGE is greater than 30. So this is a string and we are using -gt, which is a relational operator that should be used with the numbers. So that's the reason why we are getting this error. So there are many ways of overcoming this error. One easiest way is to remove this line by using the set command and delete that particular line. You can always do that, or you can set up an iteration here, and during the first iteration don't do any operation, and from the second iteration if you want, you can start working on that. So let's see. So everyone understood what is the error that we are getting, why we are getting that error?
Yes, Aditya. But in the message it says line 6. So shouldn't it be line 1?
Line 6, right, from starting here.
Okay, so the line 6 is in the coding.
Yeah, coding. Starting from the first line. So I'll go to the age.sh. So I'll show you one example on how we can overcome this error. So if you want, you can try with other examples. Like as I said, you can always for the first iteration, you can always use the break, or you can always use the continue. Those are also work in while loops, or you can also use the iterations. So for the basic thing that I can do is, so how can I delete a particular line in set command by using set command?
Set -i 1d.
Set -i, let's say set 1d. So this is the output I'm getting, right? So I can always pipe it to some temporary file, right? So if I use cat and then temp, you can see what are the first line, we deleted that first line here. So I can use the same syntax. So I'm just printing out the contents of the file and I'm piping it to set1d, which will delete the first line. I don't want to delete the information that was present in the original file. That's the reason why I'm not using the -i here. So I just want to delete the file first line, and I'm passing and saving that whatever the output I'm getting into a temporary file. So I'll use the same logic here, age.sh. So I'll remove the set -x. So cat $1, I'll pipe it to set 1d and I'll save it to a temporary file. So here, rather than passing $1, I'll pass the temporary file, and after the script completes, I can always remove this temporary file. So what I'm doing is, So I'm taking the $1. Similarly, I'm taking the input as a file. So I know that the first line of the file has all this information which I don't require for my script. So I'm just removing that first line by using sed1d, and I'm saving it to a temporary file. So during the while loop execution, I'm passing the temporary file which does not have the first line in there. And at the end of the script, I'm just removing the temporary file. If you want, you can still keep the temporary file, but I don't want this all the junk, right? So I can always remove this temporary file. So now if I save here, if I execute sh age.sh, and if I pass on the table, you can see. So I just use a temporary file. I redirect whatever the output here that I'm getting. So cat $1 will print out the total contents of the table, and I piped it to sed1d, which removes that first line, and then I'm saving it to a temporary file. So I'm using the temporary file for this while loop. So here you can see here, I did not use a dollar because this is a file name, not a variable here. So you don't have to use dollar here. So if you use dollar, that means it's a variable. But here I'm passing on the direct temporary file. So this first command will create a file by the name temp on my server, and this while loop will pick up that file and execute all the script. Any doubts here?
Aditya, do we have any other way to execute from the second line, like by adding +1 to the age?
Yeah, you can always do that by using, you can use an if condition. You can set up an I equals to 1, and during the first iteration you can check if I equals to 1. Don't execute any commands, else execute all these commands, and it set up a, let's say, let me show you how this. If is not equals to 1, so equals to expr I plus 1, and in here I will initialize the value of I as 1. So during the first iteration it will check whether the value of I is 1, then okay, it is, this condition is false, it will go to the else, and it will increase the value of I by 1. So during the second iteration the value of I will become 2, and this all this what are the commands here, so this will keep on executing. So if I copy this, so there will always be many ways on how you could write your script. So it depends on your way of thinking. So whatever the way of your thinking, if you are getting the output, then it's always right. So you don't have to follow the method that I am showing here. So you can always write with your own logic. You can always write your scripts. So there will always be multiple ways on how we can write a single script.
Aditya, in the last line for the file name here, you have given the dollar, right? That is right.
This is a variable, right? $1. So this is not the file name that I'm directly passing.
Okay, sorry.
Aditya, is there a command to where we can check if this is a string or a number and then go ahead and execute it?
No, I showed you some examples, right, where we can pipe it to grep and then check whether it's a number or a this one.
Yes, so that is the only. Is there not now, for example, because yesterday I was searching, I did see that where we use grep and check it if it is between 0 or 9. But then I saw one more command. I was not sure if it would work or not. They had uh, bracket and the that small that the power the to the power of symbol, and then they use digit between two colons. Is that something that we can try here?
That yeah, the multiple options. Even with grep also, you need to use that a not top or it's hat symbol. I guess it's hat symbol. The symbol we call it as hat or cap. It's between this cap, I think. So even with grep, we need to the correct syntax. You need to use the cap symbol.
I've posted one. I've posted it in the chat, Aditya. I think I'm guessing that is the one.
Yeah, this even with the grep I was saying. So you don't have to use the egrep. Egrep you can use the grep also, but you still have to use this cap for the exact syntax.
Okay. So we can use this, and then if it is true, we proceed. If it is false, we exit instead of the first line.
Yeah, that also can be. See, so if a variable is number in bash code. So there is multiple ways. So RE equal to this one. So the same thing. So they are using this. This is one way of doing it. So grep is one way of doing it. Here. So this is one way. So there will be always multiple ways of checking whether it's an integer or not. Yeah, you can check if it is an integer, then only run this command. If it is not an integer, then you can skip. You can do that also for this script. So this is one way of doing it. So what this effectively does is this logic is, so during the first iteration, the value of I would be 1, right? So it will go to this if loop and it will check whether I is not equal to 1, that is 1 is not equal to 1, which is false. So all these statements will not run. So and it will go to the else, and it will increment the value of I by 1. So that during the next iteration, the value of I would be 2, right? And then it will check for the second line. So we effectively remove any operation that we perform on the first line. So during the second line, during the second iteration, during the second line, so this if condition will check $I. So now the $I value is 2, right? So it will check, okay, whether 2 is not equal to 1. So this condition is true, and all these commands will execute. So there will be no another way where the value of I will become 1 again. So these statements will keep on executing on every iteration. Any doubts here on the script?
So Aditya, on the same question, where regarding confirming if it's an integer or not, there you will not require the else, right? Because if it is not an integer, we just have to. There would be no output, and then it just continues with the while loop.
Okay. Yeah, it just continues. You don't have to use any of it else.
Thank you.
You just check whether this is an integer. So if it is an integer, perform these operations. Else, just leave it. So you don't have to use this else. So only the if, and then you can close with an fi.
Got it. Okay. Thanks.
This is an assignment. Not I'll explain just one more script, then we'll exit. So example. Script. change the file extensions. So let's say we have multiple files with an extension .sh. So let's say in our server we have files called as t1.txt, t2.txt, and then t3.txt. So we have all these files with the extension .txt. So I want to change all the files that have this .txt extension to maybe something like .py, to t2.py, t3.py. So if you want to change from one extension to another extension, how can we do that using a shell script? So we can also perform this operation by using this is some, you can say, a real-time scenario where you might have thousands of files that have some kind of an extension, and you want to change all the files extension to some other extension. So this is an example where I'm changing from .txt to .py. So in some other scenarios there will be some other extension and they want to change all the file names to some other extension. So you can perform this operation by using a shell script. So this is one of the, you can say, as a real time, you might get a chance to perform this operation. Like, so definitely there will be lots of thousands of files on Linux server, right? So if you want to change an extension with a single script, you can do this. So for an example, let's say I'll create these files: touch t1.txt, t2.txt, t3.txt. So when I press ls, right, so I'll be getting all these files. So how can I get only the files that that end with this .txt extension?
Using find command, find -name and
Star.
Hyphen name.
Yeah, hyphen name. Double quote star. .txt.
So this is one way of getting it, and there is also one more way: ls -l
grep
or .txt. I don't have to use -l, so just use this. You can also get this values in this manner as well. So both are correct. There is no this is correct or this is wrong. So there are two ways. I'm showing you two ways. There can be multiple other ways as well on how you can get all the files with that particular extension. So now let's say I use this find command. And then so let's say if I only want to get this, if I want to remove this .txt, how can I do that? Can anyone guess on how I can remove this .txt from this total line?
With the help of awk command.
Cut command.
How can I do that with cut?
Delimiter will be dot.
You can use set command.
Delimiter will be dot, and then what is the field separator? I have to use hyphen.
-2 F2.
Will like it. Yeah. So here before the dot there is F1. So if I use F1, right, so I'll be getting an empty, because once the dot starts, the second this is a field 2, this is field 3, and previously there is field 1, so which is empty. So if I use F3, I'll be getting txt. So this is also one way of getting where I'll be getting /t3. So there's one more way where I can use this set. So how can I replace a word using set command?
Using
with the new string, whole string.
Tell me the full syntax.
Set hyphen
Number slash s
Single
s
dot
.txt
.txt.
Yeah.
slash.
Here, what this command will do is it will remove the .txt within. So this is there is nothing here. This is with an empty string. So now if I press enter, you can see here. So I'm replacing .txt with nothing, so it removes that what are the .txt here on this file. So, any doubts with this command? Said yes. So you know that how to replace something, right? So if I use .txt to py, you can also get this.
Aditya, can you paste that command in this notepad?
Which one? This one? Yeah, I'll paste it once I'm writing the script.
Okay.
Aditya, I have a question here. So this command actually just changes the output, right? It still does not change the whole file as
So,
such.
yeah, I'm just explaining how we can make use of these commands and how we can get the file names. So once we know how to get the file names, then we can always use the. So what's the command to rename a file?
We can copy or move.
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 Use copy, then the original file will also remain, right? So we don't want the original file, so we want to rename it completely. Yeah. So we can always once we get the file names, once we get the file names, we can always we can always rename them by using the move command. So let me start. So to get all the file names with a command, I can use this, right? So I'll be getting all the file names that end within extension .txt. So I will use that, and I will redirect it to a temporary file. It's nothing new here. I'm just whatever the command that I'm running here, right? So if I run this command, so I'll be getting all the file names that end with a .txt format. So I'm saving it to a temporary file. So if I check the cat tmp, so I'm just the temporary file will have all the file names with the extension .txt. There's nothing new here. I'm just redirecting all the file names to a temporary file here. So next, I'm reading all those file names by using while read line. So while read line, so during the first iteration, I'll just use echo $line, and then I'll pipe it to sed s.txt and g. So what this will do is it will give us the file name. So the same command that I'm using here. So this would give me the file names, and then when I send it to the set command,
but this will not work while file name is different number of if it is 4 number of lines.
So if it is even if it is 100 lines, 100 numbers, so all the files will be stored in new lines, right? My names will be stored. So let's say if I go cat and then temp. This is the content of a file. So if it is 3 lines, so if I use touch t4.txt, if you use this find command and save it to temporary, if I use cat and then temp, so whatever the number of files you have, so those all the
I'm saying file name is suppose a T3 word is a file name, then this cut command will not work, right? You need to use the awk command. If here it is a T3 as your file name, if it is a T3 space T1 as a file name.
Can we create a file name with the space inside between them?
No.
Directly we cannot create, but yes, there is some ways where we can create. But still, I'm not using the cut command right here. There is no cut command if you can see here.
Okay.
I'm just using this. You're just using the set command. I'm just removing the .txt and getting the name of the file without any extension. So the main use case for the set command is I'm removing the extension. I'm getting the file names, just the file names. I'm removing the whatever the extensions that we have, and I'm removing them, and I'm getting the empty file names without the extension. That is the main use of this total command. Is there any doubt with this command? Echo $line, and I'm getting the file name. So once I get the file name, I can directly use mv $line $name dot py and temp rm10. That's it.
Aditya, we can do that in set command only, right?
Which one?
Here in you are we are moving the file from $line to $name.py, right?
Mm-hmm.
We can do set space.
So this is one way you can do. So if you want to check another way, so file name, let's say I will change it to .py here, and in here $line $name. That's it. So both will work depending on which logic you are going with. So let me explain the first one, then I'll try to explain the second one. So during the first iteration, so what is the content of a file, right? So ./t1.txt. This is the content of a file. This is the first line that we are getting. So we'll be echoing this line, and we'll piping it to this set where it just removes the .txt. Now the content of the name will become ./t1. So this would be our content. So when I use this move command, mv, so $line, I'm printing whatever the line that we are getting. So $line will be t1.txt. I'm moving it to $name is ./t1.py. So this command will effectively change whatever the extension of the file that we have from .txt to .py. So this is one way of doing that. So this one, so our first line, right, is ./t1.txt. So echo name equals to echo $line. So echo $line would be your ./t1.txt, and when you pass it to the set command, so this will effectively will become ./t1.py. So if you have any doubts, I will take it to this echo command. So echo, so I'll pass this as an input. I'll pipe it to sed s.txt.py. If I use G here, you can see it just converts the .txt from .txt to .py. I'm just replacing the string .txt to .py. So the next, when I use the move command, right, mv, so $line is nothing but /t1.txt, and then move to $name. So $name is this one, ./t1.py. I know it's little confusing, but any doubts here?
Aditya, there after done we need to add $temp, right? $temp.
Temp is a file name. You don't have to use the $temp. So if it is a variable, you need to use $.
Okay.
So if you are directly passing a file name, you don't have to use the $.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
So Aditya, because you have put that first command where the file itself is created, that is why it is temp there. So
Yeah,
whatever
it's
name
temp.
we put there at the end of wherever we are appending the .txt files to, that would be the file that is after done.
Let's say if I use ABC here, I have to use ABC over there. Yeah, any file name. Just I'm using temp because it's a temporary file that I'm creating and deleting, right? So just for namesake. So if I copy this,
Also,
60,
Aditya, suppose now we can take in inputs also, right? Like if I want to replace txt by py, I can do two reads, one for the input and one for the output, and then use basically assign it to
yeah,
variables and then use the dollar symbol wherever.
yes, you can also do that.
All
You
right,
can
got
keep
it.
on increasing. Yeah. So now if I use ls star dot txt, I have all these files. I have 4 files with the extension .txt. So once I execute the script ext.sh, now if I check for ls, so there are no such file or directory. If I search for py, you can see t1.py, t2.py, t3.py, t4.py. So if I change the same script from py to I want to change
Aditya,
exchange all
if
the
I want,
extensions change all
if
the
I
extensions
want,
of yeah, just a second. Change if I
okay.
wanted to change all the extensions of files from .py to .txt, I just have to change here py, and I need to remove the .py and get an empty file and move it to .txt extensions. Now if I execute that script, ls .txt, the files are back to .txt extension. So if I want to change it back to .py, I can just go here, find all the files with .txt extension, remove .txt extension using set command, and move the files to .py. txt. Here you can see t1.py, t2.py, t3.py, t4.py. So either this or this, both will work. So depending on the logic you're going with. Any doubts?
Aditya, now if I want to change one file to some different extensions, like I want to be first file to p something image dot jpeg something like that. If I want to change it for different, how will that work?
If there are thousands of files, so how will anyone know that okay, the first one will be JPG, second one will be what? These are some very peculiar cases where no one will find these cases. And if you want to keep writing for single files to change an extension as script, then there is no use, right? So if you just want to change each file, they could directly write the move command and change them.
Okay.
This is for bulk change. If you want to perform, you don't want. So the main use of writing the shell script is rather than executing the commands individually. If you want to do some repeated activities by just writing a script, then we can use the shell script. So those peculiar concepts like okay, for this file should be changed to this, one more 100th file should be changed to this, then you always need to perform it manually. If you know the names, if there are those names are every day you'll be getting the same names, then definitely you can add the names here inside the script and then you can change.
Okay.
Any other doubts, anyone?
Aditya, for while read loop, we are always passing the input from the file only. So, is there a way to pass it direct?
Directly as in?
Without passing without redirecting the content to the temporary file, directly can we input from the command?
Yeah, you can. You can, if you want, let's say, you can also use $1 here and then pass it as a $1. So as the file, the temporary file in here, I'm creating inside the script only, right? So that's the reason why I'm using the same file name here. So if you remember the starting all the files, all the scripts, I was using the $1, or you can also use the read command to read the file name here, read the file name that you want to enter. As these temporary files, I am creating those files inside the script only, right? So I'm passing the same file names here. So if you have a file name that you want to pass, you can pass it directly. If you want to pass them during the execution, then you can pass the $1 or whatever the variable. Here there is we cannot pass as a variable, right? Because this is a file we can only create inside the script. Every time the script executes, we need to find the .txt file. So even let's say if I created the file temporary file before executing the script, maybe some other time someone may be adding some other files with .txt extension that will not be added to the temporary file, right? The temporary file will not keep on getting updated automatically. So if you add this particular line inside your script, so whatever the files that are there with .txt extension, they will be added to the temporary file.
Okay. If the input is taken from a command, then can we input that to?
Yeah, you can let's say for this example, echo into the file name, read name. You can use $name here. This also works. Either you can use $1 or you can also make use of this syntax. Both are same.
Okay.
Both will work.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other doubts, anyone? You can see it has changed from py to txt. So both will work depending on what you were thinking. You can use either of that. So here in this example, I've removed the extension of the file and then I moved it to .py. So in here, I directly got a file name to which I want to move the original file by using this command, and then I moved it from the original file to the new file name that I got by using this command. So this command will nothing but, so what that will do is, so if you use this sed .txt .py, it will change to the new file names that we want to create. So what are the destination names of the files? Any doubts here? So if you're once go and try all these scripts. If you're stuck at any script, come again tomorrow and ask me to explain them. I will again explain. Try and write them by yourself, and if you get stuck or if you got any doubts on any of the scripts that we discussed today, come tomorrow and then again ask me to explain again. Any doubts?
Hello.
Yeah.
So in searching the big number, if it is 3 numbers, I can check like A equal to B or B equal to C. If any a number is equal, then it is okay. But if I want to check for 10 numbers, is any simple command to find out if there is no 10 numbers are equal?
You can use some kind of looping, like for loop you can use, and then check all the numbers are equal.
Okay.
some kind of looping mechanism you need to use. So if for 10 or 100 numbers, if you're using if loop, then you have to, the if loop will itself will become so much numbers on it to write. So in those cases, we generally use a loop to check.
Okay, if
So
loop.
go to all, yeah, for loop for or while, but mostly for loop. So if you want, if you're sending, if you're passing 10 arguments, right? So if you want, so what's the special variable to get all the arguments passed to the script in string format or array format?
This while read also we can use, like
Hashtag.
each line it will check whether it is equals or not.
Which one?
Same while read loop also we can use, like each line it will check.
While read we can only use to check the contents of a file, right? So here you are passing the numbers. There is no use case for while read in that scenario, right? Because there is no file that you want to check.
Suppose I have a file, like one text file having some 100 numbers, so in that 100 numbers which I want to check.
Then you can use while.
Because I can't type all 100 numbers for big number. Okay.
And then you can use while read. Anyone else? Any other doubts? If no doubts, tomorrow is Monday, right? So I'll take the class at 7:30 in the morning. So regular time is said. Most probably I have to wait. Let me check how many classes left for this. So there are 2 more scripts for while read, 1 or 2 scripts for while read, and then I have to explain cron tab, for loop, functions, and then case statements. Yeah, we can finish shell scripting in another 2 days. By Tuesday we'll complete shell scripting. Most probably by Thursday or Friday, Deepthi will start taking, I guess, I'll ask her to start in GitHub first. Git, build tools, and then AWS, and then after AWS I'll take Terraform. Okay, any doubts? Tomorrow I'll take the class at 7:30 a.m. in the morning.